All right, today we're tackling one of the greatest success stories in all of human history, the complete and total eradication of smallpox.
I mean, think about that. An enemy that was with us for millennia, just gone, wiped off the face of the earth. It almost sounds like science fiction. So how on earth did we do it? Let's get into it.
To really get how huge this victory was, you first have to understand the scale of the enemy. Just in the 20th century, smallpox killed an estimated 300 million people. Let that sink in. That's more than all the deaths from all the wars of that century combined.
And this wasn't some new threat. Nope, this was an ancient one. For thousands of years, as empires rose and fell, smallpox was just this constant, terrifying fact of life. The history here is just incredibly deep. I mean, we're talking about finding traces of smallpox on a pharaoh's mummy from over 3,000 years ago. As people started to travel, as trade routes opened up, the virus just hitched a ride, spreading across the entire globe, century after century. And its effects were just brutal. On average, 3 out of every 10 people who got it died. For those who made it through, 80% were left with these deep, disfiguring scars. It was even a leading cause of blindness. This wasn't just a statistic, it was a personal tragedy, over and over and over again.
But, humanity started to fight back. And the whole long road to wiping this thing out didn't start with some giant global program. It started with a single, pretty daring idea from a country doctor. So the first real attempt to control it was something called variolation. It was basically fighting fire with fire. You'd take material from a smallpox sore and scratch it into a healthy person's skin, hoping to give them a mild case and make them immune. And, sometimes it worked, but man, was it risky. It could still kill you or start a whole new outbreak.
And then came the real game changer. In 1796, a doctor named Edward Jenner noticed something interesting. Milkmaids who got a mild disease called cowpox never seemed to get smallpox. His work led to the world's very first vaccine. And get this, as early as 1801, he was already dreaming of its complete annihilation. That's how powerful he knew this idea was.
But Jenner's brilliant idea? It would take another 150 years and a massive global effort to fully realize it. In the 20th century, it was finally time to take on the giant. But it wasn't a straight line to victory. Not at all. The World Health Organization launched its first eradication plan in 1959, and it just kind of fell apart. Not enough money, not enough people, not enough commitment from countries. By 1966, it was basically a failure. But, and this is the key, they didn't give up. In 1967, they came back with a new plan, the Intensified Eradication Program.
And here's where the story gets truly incredible. Right at the absolute peak of the Cold War, 2 global rivals, the United States and the Soviet Union, found a common enemy. And they decided to work together. They became the driving force, providing the money, the experts, and hundreds of millions of vaccine doses. Success also came down to a couple of key pieces of tech. First, a new freeze-dried vaccine that didn't need to be kept cold. This was a total game changer for getting it to remote villages in the tropics. And second, this little thing, the bifurcated needle. A simple 2-prong needle that was way better than the old clunky equipment. It was easy to use, easy to clean, and used way less vaccine.
I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got these big, complicated jet injectors. And on the right, that simple little needle that completely changed the game. Any health worker could be trained to use it in just a few minutes, which meant they could vaccinate people incredibly quickly. But maybe the biggest change wasn't the tech, it was the strategy. The old plan was to try and vaccinate everybody. The new plan was way smarter. It was called surveillance and containment. Instead of trying to vaccinate whole countries, teams would find an outbreak, rush to the scene, and vaccinate a ring of people around every single infected person. It was like putting out little fires before they could turn into a wildfire. It choked the virus off and broke the chain of transmission. So now they had it all: the tools, the money, the international cooperation, and a brilliant strategy. It was time to win the war, for good. And this is where a massive global campaign comes down to a single person. This is Rahima Banu, a 3-year-old girl in Bangladesh. In 1975, she became the last person on Earth to contract the deadliest form of smallpox. As soon as her case was found, she was isolated, and health workers vaccinated a 5-mile circle around her village, just to make absolutely sure she was the last one. 2 years later, the final case of any kind of smallpox in the wild was recorded.
a hospital cook in Somalia named Ali Malin, and thankfully, he survived. After him, that ancient chain of transmission that had plagued humanity for thousands of years was finally broken. After 2 full years of intense searching all over the world with 0 new cases, the world could finally, officially declare victory. You start seeing posters and publications like this from the World Health Organization, celebrating an achievement that most people thought was completely impossible.
And then came the moment. On May 8, 1980, the official declaration was made. The war was over. Humanity had won.
But the story doesn't end there, because winning the war against smallpox left this incredible legacy that continues to shape our world today.
First, let's just talk about the money. The entire 10-year program cost about $300 million, okay? But the amount of money we've saved since then by not having to treat people or vaccinate them is estimated to be over $1 billion every single year. That's one of the best investments humanity has ever made.
But way more importantly, it created a blueprint for public health. The systems they built for the smallpox campaign became the foundation for routine immunization programs for kids all over the world. That ring vaccination strategy, it's been used to fight modern outbreaks like Ebola. And the whole idea of surveillance and contact tracing, that's a direct lesson from smallpox that's essential for crises like COVID-19. You know, maybe the most powerful lesson of all is one of hope. This whole story proved that when nations actually come together, even bitter rivals, to fight a common enemy, the impossible can become possible. It's just this permanent reminder that a group of determined people really can create a better future.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. This was a unique victory, a singular moment in the history of medicine. So it really makes you wonder, in our world today, what would it take for all of us to come together and do something this big ever again?